Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It's Tuesday, October 25th, 2016. It's going to be game one of the 112th World Series later today, and it's also going to be the start of the new NBA season, the 71st season of the NBA. Very interesting that the 71st season of the NBA is beginning on the same day the Cubs are entering the World Series for the first time in 71 years. We're going to talk about how that's not a coincidence, and we're going to talk about in this video what to look for in game one of the World Series and what to look for in this NBA season. I have a feeling that this World Series is going to be your Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Chicago Bulls, something I've been talking about since this summer, and now here it is as the World Series. So anyhow, today's starting pitchers for game one of the World Series. We'll start here with the World Series. We'll talk about the NBA in a moment. And we're even going to talk about Arian Foster's retirement yesterday in the NFL and what's so funny about that. I can make the point real quick here with Arian Foster. Look at these starting pitchers' names for the game. Jonathan Lester and Corey Kluber. These are their birth names, first and last name. They both sum to 54 like the word baseball. In a complete 9-inning game, there's 54 outs, significant number to the sport. In numerology, 5 plus 4 is 9. Think about baseball, 9 innings. The quickest inning you can have as a pitcher with strikeouts is 9 straight strikes. 9, significant to the sport of baseball. So, Arian Foster retired yesterday, and if you look, he retired with 54 career rushing touchdowns, and the name Arian Foster equals 54, just like Corey Kluber, just like Jonathan Lester. We'll look more at that in a moment. But anyway, that's what's interesting right away on the surface about these pitchers. There's a whole lot more to it, and we're going to talk about it. So today's date, it is a date with 71 numerology, and here the Cubs are in the World Series for the first time in 71 years. Also, it's the 71st season of the NBA, as we said. The Indians right now in the postseason, the Cubs' opponent, are 7-1. 7-1. Jonathan Lester, his birthday is January 7th, which in most parts of the world is written 7-1, day before the month. Starting pitcher for the Cubs. It's also a date with a life lesson number of 44. I've been pointing out all year. In spring training, I said Cubs will be in the World Series. I expect them to win it this year. Last year in spring training, I said Mets will be in the World Series. I expect them to win it. So last year, not quite right with the Mets pick. People thought it was crazy just to pick them in the World Series. They made it. They lost. And we figured out why they lost by the time they got there. You can go back and watch my videos. Anyhow, here we are. The Cubs have a chance to win the World Series. We'll see if I made the same mistake 2 years in a row. But anyhow, think about this. Obama, the 44th president in his final term with the Chicago connections. Chicago Cubs in the World Series for the first time in forever. African American has gematria of 71. Obama, the first African American president. If you missed my recent video on the movie Birth of a Nation, which equals 71 and supposedly grossed 7.1 million its opening weekend, check it out. All of these numbers are significant to the occult. There's an esoteric language in numbers, and I'm cluing you into what I know. I'm not from the occult. I'm not from the esoteric. I tapped into this through research. So now I share what I know. Also interesting, 44 and 71. They're the only two numbers when you write them out as words that sum to 144. Remember, Kyle Hendricks, the last pitcher, his name equaled 144, came out after his 88th pitch. The game before that, the Chicago Cubs pitching staff had 144 total pitches, 144 the number of time. So here we are on a special date and time with the numbers corresponding to the season lining up. It's also a date with 51 numerology. Cleveland has a gematria connection to 51. Conspiracy 51. 51 outs in a baseball game if it goes 9 innings and the home team is already leading going into what would be the bottom of the ninth or at the end of the top of the ninth. Cleveland is at home tonight. It is possible that they win tonight's game. If they do win tonight's game, remember this, that Cleveland equals 51. And remember, if they win in that fashion, leading going into the bottom of the ninth, so the game's over and there's only 51 outs in the whole game, remember that. Very well could be that way. Today's October 25th, the day that leaves 67 days left in the year. Cleveland Indians equals 67 at home for Game 1 of the World Series. Here's the pitcher Jon Lester, born January 7th, 1984, currently 32 years old. He's 74 days from his 33rd birthday today. And if you're new here, I talk about the importance of pairing the numbers 74 and 33 by the Freemasons who run pro sports, who run media. Since my very first video, I've explained the significance of 33 and 74. Here we are, Game 1 of the World Series, 74 days from the 33rd birthday of the starting pitcher for the Cubs. The preparatory school he went to, Bellarmine, equals 46, just like Chicago Cubs. Just like how they tried to tell you that Billy Sionis died 46 years to the day before the Cubs broke the curse. Billy Sionis, the man responsible for the curse on the Cubs, lasting 71 years. In truth, there probably never was a Billy Sionis. It's probably a made-up story for their long planned-out scripted agenda. As I continue to explain, all of these sports seasons have been scripted many years in advance. These athletes, a lot of them are Manchurian, born and bred to fill their future roles in these games, like Jon Lester and Corey Kluber, who we're going to get to. Here's the name Jonathan Lester. It equals 162 and 54. Major League Baseball equals 162. 162 game season. MLB in Sumerian Gematria also comes to 162. That's what I mean when I say these people are Manchurian, born and bred to be. It is undeniable when you look at the overwhelming evidence. How can I do a video on every single sports game and it's always this way? I mean, you got to use your head and think. The name Jon Lester, which he goes by his pitcher name, spells it Jon. Gematria of 37 and 46, just like Chicago. Chicago Cubs 46 and 55. Theo Epstein 55. You know, he's given credit for breaking the Red Sox curse. Now here he is with the Cubs, another cursed team. They're playing against Francona, who was the manager of that Red Sox team. They just advanced over Dave Roberts, who managed the Dodgers, who was on that Red Sox team. The name Jon Lester also sums to 118. As I said in spring training when I predicted the Cubs, I said it would have a lot to do with the upcoming election, Obama exiting, and Hillary Clinton becoming the next president, who's from Chicago. You know, I've understood that Hillary's to be the next president since 2008, since her and Obama disappeared off to the Bilderberg meeting. Everyone else should have known that, and they would if they knew what was going on in this world. But anyway, Jon Lester, name Gematria connecting to Chicago like Barack and Hillary. Name with election day. This World Series is going to end just before the election. He has birth numerology of 111. New York equals 111. Hillary and Donald Trump, major connections to New York. New York, the small way, equals 39. The way he goes with his short name, John, 39. Again, 39, 111, numbers of New York. This is a New York-heavy election. Chicago and New York are the Masonic Zionist meccas of the United States. These are sister cities in that regard. You know, the majority of the wrongdoers, this is where they are. New York, Chicago, nation's capital, Hollywood. But New York and Chicago, that's where they're heavy. It's been 292 days since his 32nd birthday. Span of 293 days. 293 is the 62nd prime number. What stands out more is his upcoming birthday. Again, his 33rd birthday, 74 days away. 33 and 74, the Masonic pairing again and again. Game 1 equals 33, Cleveland 33, Indian 33. You know, it's a C&C World Series. Cubs, Cleveland, both use C as their emblem. You know, C 33. Clinton 33. Very interesting. It's also a span of 75 days, if you count the end date. World Series connects back to 75 as well. He's from Tacoma, Washington, having gematria of 66 and 75. Numbers connected to World Series. Tacoma, it's on the 47th parallel. Always relevant. Just a hair off the 46th parallel. Show you what his opposing pitcher has to do with 46 in just a moment. So, Jon Lester's going up against Corey Kluber. I don't know if there was a change. Just days ago, I saw on SportsCenter they were saying that Miller for the Indians was going to do game one. So perhaps this is why they switched it up. Miller equals 33, like Cleveland, like Indian. He'll probably pitch tomorrow or the next game. But anyway, Corey Kluber, born April 10th, 1986. Check this out. His full name in gematria sums to 212 and 68. The Cubs just clinched their World Series berth on October 22nd, 2016. A date with 68 numerology. Barack Obama equals 68. With regards to the Indians in 68, it's been 68 years since they won the World Series. If the Indians do end up winning the World Series, remember this. Corey Scott Kluber pitched game one with the 68 name gematria facing the Cubs who clinched on the 68 date, and it's been 68 years since they won. But again, Barack Obama equals 68, and I think this is what the riddle really is. And I'm going to show you what happened yesterday in the news between Obama and Representative Issa, who's born in Cleveland. Might be a foreshadowing for what's to come in the World Series. But anyway, 68, important number in effect, coded into this pitcher's name. His 212 gematria reminds me of last year's American League Championship Series and the Royals being in the World Series. 212. American League teams, Corey Kluber in the American League. So again, his pitching name that he goes by has the gematria 54 like we talked about. Corey also has gematria of 66 like curse, like World Series. Cubs breaking part of the curse, getting back to a World Series for the first time in 71 years. Now it's been 108 years since they won the World Series. That's the other component of the curse. And notice in those years, 108 minus 71 is 37. Chicago the small way equals 37. Jon Lester, 37 the small way. All of this stuff is structured by mathematics, numerology, gematria. This is how they've planned out all the rigging. And why would they do this? You know, for control, for agenda, for tributes. A lot of it comes back to gambling and duping the masses. It's also about keeping the games exciting, competitive, narrative. You know? And think about what 1945 was. That was when World War II ended. We really are, you know, the rhetoric's building up, the storylines are building up for another world war, for a greater war. Albert Pike, Freemason from the Civil War, said there would be 3 world wars. The third would be between Christianity and Islam. What have they been prepping us for in this nation? And sports, totally integrated with what's been going on. You know, 9/11, Patriot Act, all of a sudden the New England Patriots out of nowhere. So anyway, Corey Kluber, his birth numerology, 119, 119, all-seeing eye, Star of David, master plan. He has a life lesson number 38. Remember, the word Jew equals 38. Wall Street Journal just put out the article that Chicago Cubs are the team of the Jews. The name of the goat that's attached to the curse with the Cubs is Murphy. Murphy equals 38. If the Cubs win this World Series, they'll become 3 wins, 8 losses in World Series. 3-8, a lot like 38. Then again, if the Cubs lost, they'd be 2-9. Think about how Jon Lester's 292 days from his last birthday. It's possible. It's possible. He's also born on the 100th day of the year and has 100 birth numerology. Playoffs equals 100. Interesting. So from his last birthday to tonight's game is 199 days, a span of 199 days. 199 is the 46th prime number. Chicago 46, Chicago Cubs 46, Billy Sionis, dead 46 years to the day the Cubs go back to the World Series. To his upcoming birthday is 167 days, or a span of 168. 167 is the 39th prime. Again, we talked about how 39 connects to New York, the opposing pitcher Jon Lester. 168 is interesting because New York City equals 168. Cleveland Cavaliers equals 168. They're playing today against New York City. As I've been saying, I think LeBron's future, when he's done in Cleveland, will be in New York, possibly bringing winning back to that city. So real quick, just some World Series history. The Indians have been in these World Series 19, 20, 48, 54, 95, and 97. The last World Series they were in was against the Florida Marlins. Cubs, they were upset in 2003 in the NLCS by the Marlins, the Steve Bartman incident. Just did a video on that, the significance of it being 13 years ago. The 112th pitch was the last thrown before the Steve Bartman incident. 112, here we are in the 112th World Series. When the pitcher died for the Marlins this year, I showed how that was connected to the World Series and the Cubs. Back to the future, the Cubs defeat the Florida team to win the World Series. Interesting that the last team the Indians were in the World Series against was the Florida Marlins. So, the Indians, the only two World Series they've won 1920, 96 years ago, and 48, 68 years ago. That 1920 World Series is when it used to be a best of 9. That's the way the World Series used to be. More 9 focus, best of 9. Then they changed it up. So since then, they beat the Brooklyn Robins back in the day, then the Boston Braves, then they've lost to the New York Giants, who are now the San Francisco Giants, who the Cubs advanced over. They lost to the Atlanta Braves. Notice that used to be the Boston Braves. And they lost to the Florida Marlins. The Cubs, here's how theirs went. The first World Series they were ever in, they lost to the Chicago White Sox. Chicago. 110 years ago. The word president equals 110. Major focus on the president in this election with the Chicago connections. Obama's team's the White Sox. Hillary's team is the Cubs. So the only two they won were against the Detroit Tigers, 1907, 1908, back-to-back years. Notice that they went to 3 World Series in a row. Lost the first, won the next 2. Then from then it's been all losing. 1910 to the Philadelphia Athletics, 1918 to the Boston Red Sox. Cursed teams. 1929 Philadelphia Athletics, 32 New York Yankees, 35 Detroit Tigers, 38 New York Yankees, 45 Detroit Tigers. The Cubs' current record in World Series is 19 wins and 33 losses between all the games. For the Indians, their current record is 14 wins and 16 losses. What I was thinking about is how the Tigers have 33 name gematria, and Cleveland is the only city that sums to 33. If the Cubs advance over the Cleveland, all of their wins will have come against 33 teams. Will be their 3rd World Series win. So check this. This is yesterday's news story, front page news story all day. Obama went after Representative Issa, who's in San Diego, but was born in Cleveland. Yesterday, they kept this 42-minute timestamp up all day. That's a number stamped on black people in a negative way all throughout history. Barack Obama in Jewish gematria equals 181, the 42nd prime number. Los Angeles Dodgers equals 181, the 42nd prime number. The team that had number 42, Jackie Robinson, the first black baseball player in the white major leagues. David Ray Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, his name equaled 181, the 42nd prime. No coincidence, he's the manager in this world of Manchurian athletes, scripted agendas by the numbers. So anyway, 42 minutes on Obama. Look at this. Not somebody who is serious about working on problems. You see how they emphasize that part? Here's why. In gematria, that sums to 216. Cleveland's area code is 216. Game 6 of the NBA Finals this year, the last one in Cleveland, finished with a combined 216 points. The name Barack in English gematria equals 216. He's born on August 4th, which is the 216th day of the year. He's currently 55. Chicago Cubs equals 46 and 55. Theo Epstein, 55. Harry Carey equals 55. Some Chicago Cubs history. So anyway, 216, a number connected to Obama and a number connected to Lincoln, who also has the ties to Illinois. Lincoln had an assassination attempt on him February 23rd, 1861 at the Willard Hotel. 216 weeks later to the day, he would die in Ford's Theater, April 15th, 1865. 216 weeks. He would die in Ford's Theater, which Obama reopened in 2009 after he became president on the 42nd day of the year, February 11th. February 11th, 2009 was a date with 42 numerology. 2 plus 11 is 13, plus 20 is 33, plus 9 is 42. We added 2, 11, 20, 09 for the date. 42 stamped on black people, first black president, getting 42 coated all over him. And remember the joke with Bill Clinton, the 42nd president, was that he was the first black president. Now his wife's about to follow Barack Obama, not by coincidence. The word lady equals 42. Hillary was first lady to the 42nd president. The name Clinton equals 87 the big way. Bill was 42. She's about to be 45. 42 plus 45, 87. Illinois equals 45. Wrigley 45. Cubs 45. First World Series since 45. So anyway, he ripped this rep from Cleveland. He's from Cleveland. Darrell Issa. This is who he was ripping yesterday. Look at his full birth name, Darrell Edward Issa, gematria of 74. And if you do the S exceptions, his name sums to 93. The Cubs clinched in their 93rd game. But just think about this. Chicago, Cleveland. And who's the boss here? The president. And who's doing the ripping? The president. And who got a tribute at the White House? The Cubs or the Indians? The Cubs did, by Bill Murray, saying they were going to break the coast with a billy goat. That went back to Billy Sionis. Are you seeing this mockery? Bill Murray, Billy Goat, Billy Sionis. Bill Murray said they'd break it on the day Billy Sionis died 46 years earlier. Bill Murray equals 50. Billy Sionis equals 50. America equals 50. 50 states. The Cubs won 5-0. Again, the Cubs won their games 8-4, 10-2, 8-4, 5-0. Obama equals 84, born on 8-4. United States of America equals 84 and 102. Hillary's birth numerology equals 102. She started her campaign on the 102nd day of the year. His date of birth, if you do the numerology, 11 plus 1, that's 12, plus 19, 31, plus 53, 84. There it is again. 84, from Cleveland, Ohio. Area code 216. And this story came yesterday, the day before the start of the World Series. Now, what's sad is I just had an hour-long conversation with someone who's in high places in this world. I thought it would be a productive conversation, but I kept showing them example after example like this, and they kept telling me that everything was a coincidence. So if you're watching this and you think it's all a coincidence, I don't know what to say to people like you. I know there's a lot of people out there that just think this is all a coincidence, but for the record, I asked that person at the end of our conversation, which was an hour long, if they thought maybe everything in this world could be credited to coincidence, and the person thought about that and said, yeah, maybe it could. And they said it with a straight face. People. So anyway, if you think it's a coincidence, maybe just stick around for one more. Let me show you one more coincidence before you go. We're not done yet, but just in case you're thinking this is all coincidence and it's a waste of your time, let me give you one more. The Indians and the Cubs have played each other 18 times all time because it's American League, National League, interleague play only started recently, so they've only played each other these few times. They are at a dead tie, 9-9. 9-9. Here's why that's interesting. Illinois equals 99. So does the number 13. It's been 13 years since the Cubs had that incident in the NLCS Game 6. Moises Alou, Steve Bartman. Anyway, Illinois 99, they're 9-9 against each other. In the movie Major League, Charlie Sheen wears the number 99. I want you to notice that the word baseball the small way equals 18. 18 games against each other, 9-9. What is 9 plus 9, Of course, it's 18. But anyway, Major League equals 108. That's what this movie was called, Major League. 108 years since the Cubs won the World Series last, 1908. 108 stitches on a baseball. 108. There's also 88 inches. Remember the last pitcher, he came out after his 88th pitch against the Dodgers, who last won the World Series in 88. 8, the number for infinity. It represents time, the loop, the infinite cycle. Again, his name equaled 144, the number 4 time. Comes out after his 88th pitch. Major League came out in 1989. That's 27 years ago. MLB 27, MLB 162, Major League Baseball. All of those have numerology of 9. See how they do this? Predictive programming. The same people who make your movies are the same people who make up your propaganda news. They're the same people who script your elections and pay these puppets to deceive us. And they're the same people who pay your athletes to go out and play on the grand stage, the athletic arena, duping the fans. There's no curse on the Cubs. What there are the Freemasons and Zionist Jews. Remember, the Cubs are the team of the Jews. Scripting sports, making narrative. Major League came out in 1989. It runs an hour and 47 minutes. That's funny because World Series, the big way, equals 147. Remember, when you write out 94, it equals 147. The Cubs won their 94th game and their 147th game of the season. The Indians finished with 94 wins this year. Also, the season began on the 94th day of the year this year. April 3rd, typically the 93rd day, but this year was a leap year, so it was the 94th. There was also the 94 lockout season. The Indians had a good year that year. So here, I just want to show you some things from that movie that are pretty funny. There's that Gematria World Series. Look at this. It's about a woman running the show. You know, we're talking about this election, Hillary. And look at who she's replacing. She's replacing Donald. This is her in the movie talking. I know it may not seem the same without Donald here. This is just how scripted things are, Truth Seeker. Donald Trump became a celebrity in 1984. This movie came out 5 years later. These elections, these sports games, they're all planned way in advance. Again, it's all a script. The managers in that movie, number 34, number 16, here are the Indians back in the World Series in 2016. Indians, the plural, equals 34. Charlie Sheen wearing 99 all movie. Wild Thing has that same gematria as Prophecy. With regards to a baseball and the 108 stitches, 2 of the stitches you can't see with your own eye. You can only see 106. You can only see 106. And last year was the year that Back to the Future predicted the Cubs to win the World Series. They were a year off. In that movie, it's USA Today that shows that the Cubs beat the Florida team to win the World Series in the year 2015. USA Today equals 106. Last year was 106 seasons since the Cubs had won the World Series. Like I pointed out, in Back to the Future, sometimes when they time travel, they land in the wrong year. And I think being a year off was part of the subtle cluing in. Oh no, I just closed a tab that I know we wanted to see. Shoot. Let me think what it might have been, Truth Seeker. My fault. Anyway, today with all the 71st season of the NBA beginning, date was 71 numerology. ESPN's front page story this morning was why Cavs and Warriors won't meet in the finals. If they did, it would be the 3rd year in a row that they did. This has happened before in NBA history, 3 teams meeting 3 years in a row. It could happen. But what I've been saying for the last couple months is I expect the NBA Finals to be Warriors versus Cavs or Bulls. And now here it is with the World Series being Cleveland and Chicago. I still haven't decided what it's going to be. I got to do more research. Let me tell you what I'm looking at. This is going to be the Cavs' 47th season this year. They're 46 years old, their 47th season. Ohio equals 47. The first NBA championship was in 1947. It was the BBA. It changed its name to NBA. But in 1947, the first championship was the Philadelphia Warriors versus the Chicago Stags. The Philadelphia Warriors moved to San Francisco, then to Golden State. They are the Golden State Warriors. The Chicago Stags are the Chicago Bulls. So look at this. This is really interesting. Think about it. 47, right? The Cavs, the entire NBA is structured around LeBron. The Cavs are in their 47th season. Ohio 47, special number. In 47, the first championship, the Warriors won it over Chicago. So there's a riddle here, and I haven't put the pieces together. I haven't cracked it yet. But look at this. Chicago Stags equals 112, and so does Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls 112. And True Seeker, I just figured out what thing I accidentally closed, so we're not going to miss it. It was Scottie Pippen singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." We're going to talk about that right after this. So Chicago Stags equals 112, Chicago Bulls 112. Here we are, the 112th World Series beginning the same day this season starting, Chicago and Cleveland. You know, the riddle is here. Who's going to win between Cleveland and Chicago this year in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals? It's going to be that. I'm almost 100% certain. But who's going to win? What we saw in the playoffs last year were the Cleveland Cavaliers were defeating teams in the NBA playoffs that at the same time the Cleveland Indians, the baseball team, were playing the baseball teams from the respective cities. The same matchups for the NBA playoffs and the NBA baseball season. And the same way the Cavs were winning over their opponents, sweeping them, so were the Indians. It was a perfect mirror. And we documented this, and a lot of people said, Zach, I think the Indians might go to the World Series. And all those people who said that, they were right. So good job to you guys. But look, there's major parallels between the scripting of these sports, seeing the way the MLB season was and the NBA playoffs were. I mean, what more do you need to know that sports are scripted? Plus all that I've shared on this channel. It's amazing how some people keep calling it a coincidence. But anyway, Chicago Stags, Chicago Bulls, 112th World Series. Warriors, they have similar gematria. Will the Warriors play the Chicago team this year? Think about how last year the Warriors defeated the Chicago Bulls win record for a season. The Chicago Bulls had the 96 record, 72-10. Golden State eclipsed it 73-9. Warriors in Chicago having this old basketball history. So that might have been a foreshadowing as well. Michael Jordan played his last game against the Philadelphia 76ers. Philadelphia connected to the Warriors. Kobe retired last year. The same day the Warriors eclipsed the record. Kobe, Jordan, Kobe from Philly. Kobe retired against the Utah Jazz. Michael Jordan once retired against the Utah Jazz. There's so many interesting parallels about the way the NBA season finished last year. I have about 3 hours worth of videos. A lot of content you need to know about. Just how scripted it all was. The three-pointers, the win record, the way it all finished up. So here we got Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. If you missed my video from July 4th, why Kevin Durant was acquired on that day by the Warriors, it was all a tribute to last season and this season to come. All by the numbers. The acquisition came 88 days before Kevin Durant's birthday. Last year, the Warriors finished with 88 wins on the season, getting their 88th wins after Steph Curry's birthday. Again, the number for time. Look at this minute 56 timestamp. That's a lot like 156. When you write out 33, it sums to 156. When you write out 666, it sums to 156. NBA Finals in Pythagorean Gematria is 33. The NBA Finals in Sumerian Gematria, 666. Fully expect the Warriors to be in the NBA Finals in the West. The Cavs, they might get eclipsed in the East this year. Another shot here, LeBron James with 44-second timestamp. King James equals 44. Again, New York City equals 168. Cleveland Cavaliers 168. See my video on LeBron's triple-double in New York last year, what it meant? Another shot here. Recharge Warriors, minute 22. Golden State equals 122. Last year on January 22nd, I said, watch the Warriors score 122 points tonight in the win. What did they do? They went out and scored 122 points in the win. Again, I just talked to somebody who is in a high place in this world for about all this stuff for an hour, and they thought all of it was a coincidence. That's why my mind's just blown by people. But again, that person said everything in this world could be a coincidence. Isn't that a funny philosophy? This is a person making big money in this world, True Seeker. Thinks the whole world's a coincidence. So Knicks at Cavs, we'll see what happens. I really do think Sunday we'll see LeBron on the Knicks. I think that's why he's starting the season against this team. Another game tonight, the Jazz and Blazers. This used to be the biggest rivalry for the Blazers when I was a kid growing up. Karl Malone days, John Stockton days, Jeff Hornacek days. I'm from Portland. I remember how people used to get riled up for the Blazers Jazz games. Utah Jazz equals 113 like mainstream. That special number to the Masons, only team in the league that has that coding. Also tonight, Spurs and Warriors. Very possible this is the Western Conference Finals playoff matchup again. Watch out, for those of you who follow my blog, there's a person advertising there a lot. His name's Milo. I should just delete his post. Last year, he was trolling the blog, guaranteeing everybody that the Spurs were going to win the NBA Finals, discrediting my work. This year, he has a fancy webpage, a fancy blog. He's doing some unheard of form of gematria, charging people for sports picks. Milo, stay away from this guy. He guaranteed the Spurs would win it last year, and my work was wrong. Notice also, tonight's game is in Oracle Arena. Oracle Arena equals 93, like Spurs. Last year, remember the final score of the NBA Finals in Game 7? The Cavs won with 93 points. The number for Saturn, the keeper of time, 93 is. So here's what I got to show you real quick. Pippen. Let's see if this brings it up. I just did the post. Here we go. So this is what I accidentally closed out. Scottie Pippen, who was number 33 for the Bulls, 33, that number, he just sung for the 7th inning stretch, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. The song's called Take Me Out to the Ball Game. I want you to notice how the mainstream media here, it's TMZ in this case, emphasizes the phrase, take me to the ball game. They left out the word out. And why did they do that? Because the people who run your media are these Masons, these Zionist Jews who do this gematria. Take me to the ball game, like they emphasized, equals 68, like Scottie Pippen, like the date of this game where he sung it, 10/22/2016. Think about it. Chicago basketball player, Chicago Cubs, World Series, NBA season starting together. Pippen played for the Bulls. The Bulls might eclipse the Cavs this year. And also, Barack Obama's got the 68. Bulls also has gematria of 66. So did Stags, the old team. Stags 66, Curse 66. They broke the curse on this night with Scottie Pippen butchering the song. If you haven't listened to this, it is... Poor Scottie Pippen. I don't know if he got thrown into this the last second or he was supposed to butcher it the way he did. He doesn't have a great singing voice. I can't make fun of him for that. I mean, he sings as bad as I do. But he didn't know the words. He just had to stop singing and saying the wrong words. I was thinking, what in the world? I mean, didn't they give this guy something to look at? Maybe he was drinking. Who knows? But anyway, that's what's up with... these connections between the World Series and the basketball season starting. What do I want to show you here? There was something to show you here. Oh, yeah. Nakia Johnson. Where's her name at? Where did I write her name at? Nakia Aldridge, I mean. Did you hear about this story in the offseason? I have a video on this. Dwayne Wade's cousin supposedly shot in Chicago. It happened the same day he was on TV talking about gun violence in Chicago. Then a story about his cousin being killed in Chicago. Just a month before that, he'd been at the ESPY speaking about this. Anyway, pretty sure this story's 100% propaganda, just another athlete being used in an agenda, something that happens all the time. We saw how LeBron James and the NBA became involved in the fake Trayvon Martin shooting. We saw how the NFL became involved in the fake Michael Brown shooting. And yes, these shootings are 100% fake, 100% made-up fiction, all part of the divide and conquer narrative that the Freemasons are all about. Anyway, look at the woman's name. Nakia Aldridge equals 71. There's a whole lot more to this story. Go back and watch my video. There's a lot coded into this. Numbers very significant. Ties to Jordan. Jordan, the old Bull. Dwayne Wade coming to play for the Bulls, growing up in Chicago. There's a narrative in effect here. Now here's Dan Barrett. If you don't know Dan Barrett, he's one of the people that learned from me early and has been making awesome videos ever since. Dan's YouTube channel has hardly any subscribers, and I don't get it. This guy is very good at the gematria research. Out of the people who've been making videos, doing this work, I would say Dan is arguably the best, maybe even better than me, but somehow He has no subscribers hardly, and he has no views on his videos. So anyway, Dan Barron. I'm just going to read this little post that he put on my video. He comments a lot on my blog, on my videos. I'm going to link his channel in the description. You guys, if you're into the gematria and the sports, this is who you want to be sub to. He does even more videos on sports than I do. Dan Barron. You know, his subscribers should rise up to the same numbers I have by tomorrow. If I had to critique Dan, I would say, you know, it is interesting. Some people appreciate what he does. He talks a lot about himself and the weird numerical patterns going on with him, which is interesting, but I think most people, you know, they mostly just want to hear about other things and not us, so maybe that's the one thing to change, Dan, but do your thing, whatever. Here's what Dan wrote. He pointed out that the GOAT equals 38 like Prince. I pointed out how earlier this year, Prince died at age 57 on the 112th day of the year. World Series equals 57. 147 the big way. Dead on the 112th day, 112th World Series. You know? So there's been this narrative all year. Dan points out that the Cubs will be 3-8 in World Series if they win, a lot like 38. Talks about Rahm Emanuel, who has the major Zionist connections. Zionist Jew. His brother was in Irgun, the Zionist militant group. His middle name's Israel. He has the same birthday that is the anniversary of Israel being recognized as a nation by the United Nations. Anyway, Rahm Emanuel, he points this out. Israel declared its independence on 14/5, which is May 14th, 1948. It was 145 days before the World Series in 1948. Chicago, Illinois equals 145. MLB is in its 145th season this year. Israel's independence was declared by David Ben-Gurion, which equals 145, which is no coincidence. You know, this is how they operate. Doing it all by the numbers. Planned agents, planned dates. This goes on like this for centuries. Not sure if you saw my video, but just before the Indians won against the Blue Jays, they showed Buffalo Wild Wings and some dude holding up a sign that had the Israel flag on it. No surprise there, they love to put that symbol before our eyes. It was just after Jew boy Jason Kipnis. That's probably me having an influence on Dan. Dan didn't used to talk like that. Made the play to end the inning and then was the first person batting in the next inning after they showed it. Kipnis also grew up in Chicago on the same street as Steve Bartman, and his sister went to high school with Bartman. True Seeker, you know, I just want to say something. I recently had somebody set up a thing for me to come speak in Seattle to a room of people, and one of the women that showed up, she was Jewish, and she was totally on our side, and she reminded me that, you know, I need to acknowledge more often that not all of these Jewish people are so awful. There's a lot of horrible Jewish people in the world. It's a horrible religion if you look into it. It's a religion that preaches superiority and making the masses slaves to lies. All the things that the people who control our media have done, who are Jewish and Freemasons, and who control these sports leagues and rig them and all this. So we have a reason to be fed up and we have a reason to speak out. And there's a reason we've been programmed to not speak against these people. There's a reason we've been programmed with nothing but World War II lies about a fake Holocaust which never happened. And that's a fact. Yeah, people were put in prison camps, but they weren't ever executed. They weren't gassed, not like all these bullshit Hollywood movies tell you that are made by this gang. The truth is, the bad guys won in World War II. The bad guys run the world, and the bad guys are the Jewish Zionists. That's the truth. And that's why they give you constant propaganda to have you see things their way, which is a lie. So just got to emphasize that point. Kipnis also grew up in Chicago on the same street as Steve Bartman, and his sister went to high school with Bartman. Jason Kipnis equals 137, the 33rd prime number. Kipnis equals 33. About the Colts hat, you know, I just put out a video yesterday showing how a person wearing a Colts hat was shown on TV at the end of the game with a bunch of Cubs fans. Horseshoe equals 112, Andrew Luck 112, Houston 112, where Andrew Luck's from. The two highest paid QBs in the league right now are Eli Manning and Andrew Luck. Their fathers were teammates in Houston in 1983. Football 83. It's been 33 years since then. The Super Bowl this year is in Houston. Since February, I've been writing about a Colts and Giants Super Bowl, potentially. So about the Colts hat, I also showed a Nebraska versus Indiana game. Dan's from Nebraska, so he's got the Nebraska goggles. He sees it all in Nebraska. Land of the Indians, they showed a fat guy wearing a Colts jersey and a Freemason hat. Then the announcers joked about all the Baltimore fans at the game. Well, yeah, because Nebraska equals 71. They won their first championship in 71. The same year the Baltimore Colts beat the Cowboys in the Super Bowl in 71. Now we have the Indians, who are 7-1 in the playoffs, going against the Cubs, who have been cursed for 71 years. Talks about the 71 numerology. Oh, here's a good one that I didn't catch. When you write out 71, it sums to 45, like Cubs, like Wrigley, like Illinois. He has a typo on Wrigley, but Wrigley does equal 45. So that's why Dan's the man. I'm going to link his channel. You know, he needs to have a lot of subs. And as for Tony De Lorenzi, another student, you know, Tony keeps picking against me. I don't know what Tony's deal is. He always acts real arrogant about his picks, and they're almost always wrong. But I do think, you know, I've been trying to figure it out. Has Tony been sent here to take people off the path, or is he someone who's into the knowledge, who's trying to make his own? I'm leaning towards the latter. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But what's interesting is I've noticed Tony's subscribers have gone way up. He gets a lot of views. And all this time, Dan Barrett, he's not getting the subscribers, he's not getting the views. And I don't mean to rip you if you're watching, Tony. You know, keep doing your thing. You're helpful to the cause for the most part. But Dan Barrett's work's a million times better than Tony's right now. So why have all of you flocked to Tony's channel, but you're not watching Dan? Dan, maybe you got to start putting yourself on the camera. Tony puts himself on the camera. Since I put myself on the screen again, my viewers have gone way up. So maybe people want that. You know, just a thought, Dan the man. So anyway, here's another good one. Arian Foster suddenly retired yesterday in the NFL. Just before the World Series starts, Arian Foster equals 54. Baseball equals 54. He started his career with Houston. Houston equals 112. It's the 112th World Series. Look at this. His rushing touchdowns, 54. And have I not pointed this out several times? How many sports athletes, their careers finish with numbers that sync up with their name, their jersey number? Such a script, people. 54 rushing touchdowns, 14 receiving touchdowns, so 68 total. 68, you know, we talked about that number a lot. Cubs and all that, Barack Obama. And listen to the name Arian Foster. It's like Obama's attorney general being Loretta Lynch. I mean, isn't something really wrong with that name? A black man named Arian? You know what Aryan is, right? Aryan Nation, white supremacy. Bruce Arians. I mean, come on. Race war symbolism in the NFL. Yesterday was also a date with a life lesson number of 43. Arian alone equals 43. Arian Foster suddenly retires. Look at the headlines. Arian Foster shocks the NFL. What really happened is his owners, the Freemasons, the Jews, they probably said, look, you're retiring, or, you know, maybe this person in your family is going to be dead. I think this is the way it really works behind the scenes. All this celebrity sacrifice. Maybe Arian Foster's the man, and he said, you know what? I'll just give up my career. Nobody needs to die for me. I'd like to think that some of these athletes are making decisions like that, standing up for the right things, because this is really the kind of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. The people who run this stuff are sick, and all of you who continue to invest money in these sports, buy merchandise, you're sick, helping out the sickest people in the world, same people who don't have a dollar for the truth. So here's another one. Death of Peter Burns, former musician. What age did he die at during the time of the World Series? You know, I just did 2 videos yesterday on celebrity deaths connected to the World Series. He died at age 57, you know, just before the World Series. His name's Peter Burns, which equals 57. Again, Prince dead at 57 on the 112th day of the year. So they said he died of cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest, 57. You know? He was from the United Kingdom. World Series, maybe it's an international tribute. His music group, Dead or Alive, same gematria as Freemason. Died on 10/23, 10 plus 23, 33. Died 79 days after his birthday, born August 5th, which can be written 5/8, like Freemasonry equals 58, Secret Society 58. We talked about the assassinations on Lincoln earlier. Ford's Theater equals 58. Willard Hotel 58. The assassination attempt, Willard Hotel. The assassination, Ford's Theater, by an actor. We get actors for politicians. You think Lincoln really died at the end of the war? shot by an actor in a theater? I don't. I think that's just how they got rid of the character that was blamed for the war conveniently right as it ended, just like they did with Adolf Hitler. Hitler dead at 56, Lincoln dead at 56, both dead in April. April equals 56, no other month does. England also has that gematria of 57, like World Series, like cardiac arrest, like Peter Burns. So there it is, Truth Seeker. You know, game 1 of the World Series, NBA preview, all in one video. Clues to what's really going on, celebrity sacrifice, politics. Just a little more knowledge. Until next time.